this.
Can't even depend on the courts to defend our democracy anymore.
Stephen Colbert, who lost his touch years ago, which is why he even got a late night show.
Disrupted America that I fought for.
Weird thing to happen. Turns out Jay Leno is chiming in on the whole Stephen Colbert firing from CBS drama, that everyone's rushing to Colbert's aid and saying, "Save Stephen!" But Jay Leno makes an interesting point. He says, slamming late night hosts for alienating half of viewers by targeting just Trump. That's according to the New York Post here. So he states, the former late night comedy giant Jay Leno thinks today's TV hosts are fools for falling back on one-sided political humor, explaining they're isolating half their audience with the endless partisan jabs. Why shoot for just half an audience all the time? You know, why not try to get the whole? Leno said, 75 told Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation CEO during a recent interview. I don't understand why you would alienate one particular group, you know, or just don't do it at all. The former Tonight Show host said, I'm not saying you have to throw your support or whatever, but just do what's funny. Leno's comments come after late night comedy was thrown into turbulence earlier in July when CBS announced it was terminating Stephen Colbert's run of the late night show and ending the show altogether. Some have speculated that the firing of Colbert, a comedian who made his name lampooning conservatives, was a political motivated move, especially since President Trump won a huge election interference lawsuit against CBS parent company Paramount just days later. Leno said such conflicts are exactly why he pointedly avoided partisan political humor during his 22-year run as the king of late night, with one analyst cited by Trulio, that's the CEO guy, showing he made fun of both sides of the aisle in equal measure throughout his career. Funny is funny, Leno said. It's funny when someone who's not, when you make fun of their one side and they laugh at it, you know, that's kind of what I do. It was fun to me that I got hate letters. Dear Mr. Leno, you and your Republican friends, and well, Mr. Leno, I hope you and your Democratic buddies are happy over the same joke. Leno thinks that it's a lesson today's late night comedians who, like Colbert, tend to target conservatives alone with their humor could learn from. I like to think that people come in a comedy show to get away from those things, you know, the pressures of life, whatever it may be, Leno said. And I love political humor, don't get me wrong, but it's just what happens when people wind up cozying too much to one side or the other. You have to be content with half the audience because you have to give your opinion. CBS insists Colbert's canning was purely a financial decision against a challenging backdrop in late night and not related to any way to the show's performance, content, or other matters happening at Paramount. Well, they also claim that the Colbert Report or late night was losing a bunch of money and they weren't getting many views. They're still getting beaten out by Gutfeld on Fox News. So the show's performance does reflect the financial decision, but they don't want to admit to that. They don't want to admit that Colbert, who raised to fame during the Colbert Report, which I thought was a masterpiece, him and Jon Stewart back in the day were kind of the dynamic duo that ushered people like me to understanding more politics, have completely failed. They completely wrecked and tarnished their former legacy. And they become a mockery of what they used to mock. They used to mock people exactly what they are today. So, yes, the performance of the show was collapsing, hence why it wasn't financial enough for CBS and Paramount to back this show. And Jay Leno makes that great point, that if you're going to do a comedy show, if you're going to do a variety show, you have to be open to all views. You have to be, if you're going to be a variety show, you have to have variety of thought. variety of comedy and not just target one specific side. Even though I think Jay Leno himself is a bit of a schmuck, I agree with that point. So it goes on to say, but just days earlier, Colbert had CBS and Paramount's $16 million settlement reached after Trump accused the network 60 Minutes of editing an interview with former Vice President Kamala Harris to make her look better, a big fat bribe on his show. Yeah, he called it a big fat bribe, but yet failed to note that 60 Minutes did deliberately edit that clip to make Kamala Harris look good. That should have been the joke. That should have been the joke. That Kamala Harris had to have 60 Minutes, her team told 60 Minutes to deliberately edit her interview to make herself look good. That's a joke right there that they'd never touched. Because Stephen Colbert works the establishment. Stephen Colbert, much like Jon Stewart, like Jimmy Fallon here or Jimmy Kimmel, all these late night comics are pandering to the establishment, pandering to their cults. That's why they're doing this, and that's why their shows are not funny. They're not funny. They're not relatable. They're completely out of touch with everyday society, and it's become a mockery to comedy. Nobody watches these late night shows because it's an entire just embarrassment to comedy as a whole. So Jay Leno makes some great points about that. That Stephen Colbert, if he wanted to succeed, if any late night comic wants to succeed in this industry, you can't be partisan. You can't show your partisan colors. But of course, being on network television and being cozy to your job is going to make people do that. Just like Bill Maher. Bill Maher's been a millionaire for how many years? He has a cozy position at HBO. His job isn't going to be threatened because he panders to the establishment, which is the ultimate embarrassment to a comic. A comic is supposed to mock the establishment. That's what made Colbert, back in the day, so hilarious. Back when Stephen Colbert and Jon Stewart, when they went on to like Bill O'Reilly's show and mocked him right in front of his face, Bill O'Reilly, who had the top cable news show, that was great. That was the highlight of their legacy. And now you have people like Jon Stewart pinning a medal on a Nazi, giving a ton bath to Condoleezza Rice and Hillary Clinton, two of the biggest predominant warmongers alike, bringing on vaccine experts to propagandize people, yet Stephen Colbert doing the vax dance. It is just absurdity to comedy. It's an absurdity to comedy. And for them to cancel Colbert, I understand that people are going to be losing their jobs. The people that work at the late night show. I can empathize with that. But them canceling Colbert should be a teachable moment for people. That you can't be partisan and do a comedy show. You can't go one-sided and completely mock and alienate half the country. Jimmy Kimmel cannot go on television claiming he has a late night comedy show and then telling half the country to go F themselves. That's not comedy. That's insulting. So here's just to show kind of the partisan here. As Jay Leno is making those great points. Again, I don't really like Jay Leno personally. I just think he's one of the schmuck. But he made the good points. But here, this is New York City. Just in, Stephen Colbert has accused CBS of firing him because the network surrendered to Trump. He also called on New Yorkers to join him in protest against CBS. A truly massive crowd showed up. Could you imagine if those same people showed up for Julian Assange or Edward Snowden? I know they won't. They won't because they've been programmed to despise people who are actually political prisoners, who are actually being silenced out, being canceled because of political pressure, because the establishment turned against them. We know that Trump wanted to threaten Julian Assange. We know that they're never going to speak up for that. But for them to go out and beg for Stephen Colbert, Stephen Colbert of all people, that he's being politically pressured and he is a prisoner being fired off of CBS. A multimillionaire guy like him who can easily do a podcast, can easily get a job elsewhere. It's just an entire embarrassment to the whole situation. So here's a look.
Look at this. We can't even depend on the courts to defend our democracy anymore. And that is why we are here today, to be maliciously compliant to our First Amendment right to stand up to this regime. And that's exactly what this is.
Oh my God.
This is not an administration. We did not vote for this.
So they're screaming that this is a violation of First Amendment right, that a comic with a late night show gets fired off of television. First of all, welcome to the business side of television. It sucks. It sucks. But that is what it is. The second part is, you're claiming this as a violation of First Amendment rights. How many people got attacked, villainized, and criminalized to some degree when it was the Biden administration, or when it was Barack Obama, or the people that were, questioning vaccines, questioning COVID, questioning the mandates? How many of those people did you shout that you're protecting First Amendment rights? This shows what hack jobs these people are. That they'll come to rush to the aid of the millionaire Stephen Colbert, but never rush to the aid of the average American, the average person, the average adult that's constantly being villainized, that's constantly being shredded and teared apart. Look at even now. Look at even now with the Trump administration. They're deporting people for writing op-eds against Israel. Where's the solidarity on that? Where's the people rallying against that? That's a First Amendment right issue, and that's the Trump administration doing that, so that should be right up your alley. Oh, of course not. Because these idiots have been programmed to protect the establishment tropes, to protect mouthpieces like Stephen Colbert. Stephen Colbert, who lost his touch years ago, which is why he even got a late night show. It was really just a stupid mistake for him to leave Colbert Report to do something like this. Just like how it was a stupid mistake for Jon Stewart to pass the baton of The Daily Show off to, what was his name? Trevor Noah. Completely tanked that. Then brought a bunch of randos to guest host it. And then come back to Daily Show and be even worse. Like, it's entire mockery of their whole legacy. Entire mockery. And here is Maze to point out that, did you know in the summer of 2020, Stephen Colbert aired a sketch warning people to be skeptical of vaccines and Big Pharma. 11 months later, when Biden was president, Colbert was dancing for the vaccine. Colbert is one of the most partisan, shameless shills that America has ever seen. So, I hope to show you this, because the last time we tried to show something at the late night show, anything with Colbert, it'd been demonetized. They blocked it. So I'm hoping this works if we do it this way. But take a look at this.
Some folks are skeptical. Thankfully, Big Pharma has come up with a way to reassure the public about their motives. And it's all in their new ad.
Are you worried about the future? Unable to sleep at night? Afraid that pharma companies will put their profits ahead of your health? If you are concerned about the cost of a vaccine, ask your doctor about VaxSelect. Vaxilax is the only medication proven to reduce anxiety about Big Pharma taking advantage of you in a national crisis. You can trust Vaxilax because of its mascot, Professor Cashington, the ethical money sack.
Side effects of Vaxilax include legless rest syndrome, kidney rhinestones, crumblefoot, spontaneous beard sparrows, the galloping hoop sticks, spinal crunch wrapping, Ferdinand's flopsy, big old pink face, Gordon's fisherman syndrome, scrotal yodas, chronic vaccine resistance, facial graham crackering, full-blown coronavirus, and dollar bills, y'all.
So that was when Stephen Colbert, as he was starting to degrade himself, that was a moment that you can at least tolerate someone like him. It's not as good as his character was on Comedy Central, but it's something. But then Biden became president. CBS surrendered to Biden. No one ever talks about that. It's amazing that, you know, when it's Trump, all these networks are surrendering. No, they surrender to any politician. They surrender to any politician. Because they're all part of the same trope. They're all part of the establishment. And going from this to now the embarrassment of Stephen Colbert dancing with syringes, promoting the vaccines that he once mocked a year ago.
The vaccine.
Yeah, thank God it cut short, because that I can't even stand that anymore. Honestly, it's a shame to not questioning pharmaceuticals and pandering right to their bait. But also, you made a mockery of the tequila song, which is even more embarrassing. Even more embarrassing. Luckily, though, there is some comedy that's still alive, because right now, as people are, you know, up in arms about Stephen Colbert, the White House is angry at South Park. So, I guess, really, we should be saying that woke is dead. Finally. It took some time, but finally woke is dead. And not only should they get lessons from Jay Leno, but they should get lessons from South Park. Because the one thing that animated comedies do so well, particularly with South Park, is they go after everybody. Everybody's got a target for a joke. Everyone becomes a butt of a joke. And in this case, in their opening episode, their first episode of the 27th season, they directly went after Trump. Directly went after Trump. They went after the Epstein tape. They went after the Paramount merger with Skydance, with Jesus intertwining into the episode. I only saw clips of it. I haven't seen the full thing. I can't really show you the full thing because that will definitely get me demonetized and kicked off. But it is amazing. It's amazing to watch this stir of controversial claims about what comedy is, and, you know, Stephen Colbert being fired because it's a political hit job. And yet Jay Leno, South Park could teach us all a lesson to say that if you're going to do comedy, if you're going to do a variety show, you're going to have to reach out to the entirety of your audience, both sides of the aisle. That's what makes South Park so remarkable for so many people, because they go after everybody. They went after woke culture with the liberals, and now they're going after Trump with the Epstein tapes. And it's kind of hilarious because they go back to their former years of when they used Saddam Hussein as a caricature. Now they're using Trump in the same regard. That's what makes it work. That's what makes it work. Is you don't just make it one-sided. You go after everybody. And in this case, for South Park to not only go after the Trump administration, but to go after the hand that feeds them, because they also mocked the Paramount merger with Skydance after getting a, $1.2 billion deal that they got from Paramount to do more episodes. That is ballsy. That is ballsy. So kudos on them. Kudos to Matt Stone and Trey Parker continuing on this work. And again, this should be a teachable moment for anyone that's still, oh, Stephen Colbert, why did he get fired? Oh, damn you. This should be a teachable moment for Stephen Colbert to realize he tanked his own show. He tanked the late night show that David Letterman had succeeded for, 2 decades beforehand? And that Stephen Colbert tanked it in just a matter of years. And I don't feel bad for him because, one, he's a multimillionaire himself. So he's pretty comfortable where he is. And two, what's stopping him from doing podcasting? What's stopping him from going on his own and not needing CBS, not needing a broadcaster? That's the beauty of the age we live in right now. I mean, I'm doing a show right now in my basement, thanks to YouTube and Rumble. The day of signing a contract to be on television, that's kind of over. It's not 1975. It's 2025, where anyone can broadcast anywhere. And for really anybody, even a schmuck like Stephen Colbert, look at what happened with Conan O'Brien. He's now doing podcasting. Why can't Stephen Colbert do the same? It'd just be the same schmuck, same show, but, you still have your audience. You still have the people that adore you. But they want to make this so controversial and a scandal because anything to go after Trump. Well, if you're going to go after Trump, again, go after both sides of the aisle. Do what South Park does. Because their 27 seasons is still strong. Still strong.